Hello, this is Victor. I'm here with a new Ask Victor. This is the one for the month of September. This is the show where I answer the questions from the viewers. So if you have any question that you would like to make me, please leave the question in the comments below and I will answer them more or less in 1 month. I do this show at the middle of every month and yeah, I try to answer the best I can all the questions I received. So I have some good questions for this month. Yeah, you can also support the channel if you want, just by commenting, liking, being subscribed, and I also, if you want to support me in Patreon, I have a Patreon account. So let's start with the questions. These are questions that viewers have put in my comments of the video of August. Okay, so remember you will have from now 1 month to leave the questions, and more or less middle of October I will answer the questions that you put in the video now. So take this into account, because if you make a question, something that will happen next week, most likely it will already happen once I'm doing the video. So let's go for the questions from the last month. The first one are from Dave Dodge or Doggy or Doggy. Yeah, I think it's Dave Dodge, how it's pronounced. So say, Victor, I've got a question for you. For the Bloodbowl star players which cannot be bought from Forgewall or are so old you can only get them in old metal minis from eBay if you are lucky, which AOS or Warhammer 40k spoofs will you use to create them? I've done my own investigating. For example, the Zold Cat for Wood Elves can be built using Games Workshop Dragon Ogre body and Seraphon head from AOS. Any one got any ideas for all the other star players? Remember, Game Workshop is pro only, so if you are in a Games Workshop shop or in Nottingham Bloodbowl tournament, you can justify the miniature being on the table. So yeah, sure. Okay, so this is quite a tricky one, because some I think are quite straightforward and some are more difficult, right? So let's make an example. If we look at the Chaos, I was just making a little bit of look and I'm thinking on Chaos we have as star players, for example, the Lord Borak. I don't know if they have Forgewall or not, right? But I will just for the sake of thinking. So the Lord Borak is mainly a Chaos warrior, right? You can use almost any Chaos warrior and remove the shield, the weapons, and just put him in a more dynamic pose. And if you want to be very fancy, maybe you can use the old Archon. But I would recommend to use any Chaos warrior sprue. The same for the Glassnock Blackhoof. You can take a Minotaur from the range of the Beastmen, so it's not that difficult. Morgan Thor is existing, these are the ones I know. For example, the Goffle Pusmo, I'm pretty sure you can take something very similar from the Blight Kings. Okay, the only one I'm not sure how I will do it is the Gobbler Grimrich, what is a toad, a chaotic toad. Right, it's a gigantic chaotic toad. It's this guy here, and this one is going to be quite difficult. There is a character from Age of Sigmar, from the Nurgle range, that have this type of face. So I'm pretty sure modifying a little bit with green stuff you can reach, but it have not a toad body. So maybe you can combine this guy. I don't remember the name, but it's a hero from Nurgle with a body of the Slan, right? And then you have this combination. This is one possibility. But of course, if you you have a Scylla in Age of Sigmar, so I'm pretty sure you can adapt it. And there, I think it all depends on each one. And if you want more detail, I can give you ideas on the sprues that I will use for them. For example, for the let's look at the Dark Elf now. Okay. Sorry, and I don't know these characters, but for example, the Kirot Kraken Eye. There is a guy in Age of Sigmar that is almost like him. I don't know if it's still available, but there was a guy that had even the same helmet, right? So let me see if I have, yeah, for example, for this one, I'm pretty sure you can use almost any dark elf and adapt it. Maybe more from the witches or from the daughters of slaughter. But this is a man, so this should be. Oh, you can. This one, I am pretty sure. You know, instead of using dark elf, look at the sprue of the Drukhari witch elves. Drukhari witch elder. Sorry, Drukhari witch. Sorry for that. Because the Drukhari witches have a mixture of male and females. I'm pretty sure you can find something very similar to that, right? This is you only have to take a witch from the dark elves and you have it, or from the daughters of Cain, right? You take from daughters of Cain, you can really make this lady quite easily. So and this is more like the traditional dark elves. So yeah, I think on Age of Sigmar, looking for the same race, you will find a lot of miniatures. There are some that are maybe more complex. This one here that have less armor, I will really look maybe on the Drukhari. Okay, and then yeah, the difficult part maybe is to have this type of spikes or things that he's having there. But as I said, if you tell me which one you are interested with, I can really deep dive more on that and give you some recommendations. I just been looking through them on Norgal. Yeah, let me see. I will just Norgal I have not investigated yet, but there are some that are repetition. Yeah, some are repeated. So I'm pretty sure looking at the chaos, even the 40k chaos, you can find something. I was looking as well the undead. On the undead, the one that is very challenging, for example, is the dwarf skeleton. And this one, I'm not sure how I will do it right now. I think you need green stuff to do this one if you don't have a miniature, because you need to shorten a skeleton. I don't think there is any dwarf skeleton in the range of Age of Sigmar. And then you have to sculpt a bear, or take a bear and glue it on top, right? But for example, this lady was thinking how I will do the Banshee. I will take the normal Banshees, and then I will, the normal Banshees already have an armor plate, okay? And then I will take the new Banshees, the ones that, but it will be, and then you can, or you take the normal Banshee and then you put some of the armor plates from the humans or something like that. So this is why I say, it all depends how accurate you want to be. This is really a challenge. I don't know where to take a mummy body today. I was thinking this one maybe you need to wait until the new Ozark guys are out. But as I said, I think the best is that you tell me which one you would like to look at. But I'm pretty sure, for example, to have this ghoul, this ghoul is almost identical to the leader of the ghouls unit, right? So from there you can find this one we have here, and on the halfling, I find it more difficult because there are not halflings out there. So these ones are going to be really a challenge to make some of the star players. So if you're interested in the halflings, I recommend you tell me which one, and I will deep dive. The ones I'm not sure is on the 3 men, right? Because the 3 men from Age of Sigmar are very big, and they will not fit in Blood Bowl. So I think the 3 men, you have to work from the Kurnot Hunters. Okay, I think the Kurnot Hunters will make a nice 3 men for the, or at least they will make a nice base as 3 men for the Blood Bowl, because they are bigger, and I think they will be more or less the size of an ogre, and I think will make sense. So I will really look into the Kurnot Hunters if you need a 3 men, and I think it's much better than the old miniature of the 3 men. I think here on the Dark Elf, you have a lot of possibilities. Also looking into the sorry, not Dark Elf, on the Wood Elves, you have a lot of facilities looking into the what's called this, the Harlequins from the Warhammer 40,000. Combining the Harlequins have this type of tight suits on them, and maybe you can combine Harlequins with Drukhari. Is how I think I will see, because they all, and then look if there is, because the all range, because they look more like war dancers from the old Wood Elf, and I don't think they are available anymore. Okay, I'm just thinking, for example, Jordel, yeah, this one can be a challenge, but I see you can use maybe the body of a, thinking that you can use the legs of the Harlequins, because you will have a belt very similar to this one, and then you can use the torso of the Sylvaneth, maybe, of one of the new Sylvaneth. And the difficult part is to have the crest. You know what I will do? I will wait until the new warband, until Batesgrave is out. I'm pretty sure some guys from Batesgrave, from Shadowspear, will be very good to make some of the star players for the Wood Elves. So this will come next week in pre-order. This one is quite a challenge. Okay, I was thinking about this one. If you are interested, let me know, because this can be really challenging. I think we need to look in very detail on the Sylvaneth range. They have some of these small spirit and wood spirits, so I will really need to check in the range what you can start from. But this is pretty straightforward. You can take a hero from the Sylvaneth, and you will have, and there is even a female like this one, right? The Zolt is the one that you commented. Yeah, this is quite a challenging one. I think you need to mix, as you said, some of the lizardmen. So let me know which one you're interested in, and I will deep dive. This guy here, I think you can use even the Drukhari Witch Elves again. Because the Drukhari Witch Elves have very light armor, right? The only thing you will not have leaves, but you can get leaves from the terrain, right? If you need to have leaves and put them as additional, you have this. I don't know if this is still available, but there are leaves, and I'm pretty sure this, if you take it from any other range, leaves like that, you can attach them to the Wood Elf to convert a Drukhari into Wood Elf. So, as I said, there is so many star players that it makes no sense for me to look in detail all the star players. Please let me know which one you are interested, and I will deep dive, and I will really look what exactly spruce I will use to reproduce this one. Also, to help, I will need I will need to search as well how the original miniature was looking like. So this was quite a complex question. Sorry if I take too long, but what I will say is it's not impossible to make it from the regular range of Warhammer 40k or Age of Sigmar, so I'm pretty sure you will be able to find something, and if not, just let me know and I will help you to find the bits I will use for them. So let's go to the next one. The next one is from Edic Beer 40k. I highly recommend to subscribe to this channel if you are not subscribed yet. It's saying, nice answers, mate. Have you tried to get your children into the hobby? Yeah, and this was just one day before I put the video of me playing Warcry with my kids. Yeah, I try from time to time. They don't have too much interest, to be fair, right? And I don't want to force it. So we played a game of Warcry, they enjoy. We played some Silver Tower, they enjoy. Try to go, you have to streamline for my kids. They're not when you try to play with people that are not very interested in these games, the best you can do is to streamline the rules, to make it them even simpler, right? Even to make it the game more dynamic. I think they enjoyed Warcry, and I will try to make more games with them once we have time. But I think Warcry is a good game to play with children, because it's fast, rules are very streamlined, and I think it's quite and it's very interactive, because it's one you move alternate you make alternate movement of the miniatures what makes the game. You don't have to wait for a long time. The thing that most of the people don't like on Age of Sigmar, maybe on 40k, is that they have to wait for a while until they can do some interaction. So I will recommend you to go for more interactive games when you're starting, right? And if you play some that are more complex, that can be Necromunda or something like that, I recommend to streamline, just to use the core rules, very easy. Start with these ones, and once people start getting used to that, start adding complexity. But yeah, I tried. My little one have some interesting painting, so he's been painting some guys that I had there. Okay, so he's been enjoying to paint. So here you have some. He's no 6. He painted this when he was 5. So he's he want to make a box walker with red skin. Okay, so the light is not very good, but he really enjoy from time to time to paint. Of course, you prepare everything and then just want to paint for 20 minutes and it's over, right? So they don't have at least my kids, they don't stay for a long time doing the same thing. So I don't know if it's all the kids, but mine can get bored or they want to change quite easily. So let's go to the next one. The next one is questions from We Ebenholz. Okay, I have 3 questions, and one is related to Armageddon. Okay, so this is talking about the Shadow War Armageddon. While I think it's pretty cool that Games Workshop shows some love to these super huge scale battles, in my experience they always turn out pretty boring. Mostly because every time I saw an Armageddon game, even at Warhammer World, the tables were much too small. It's like the whole table is filled with armies and like 5 inches of space in the middle. We can barely move. There is almost no terrain in any impact. There is basically no tactics, just numbers. Or in other worlds, the game is decided before it is even. I think he's not talking about Shadow War Armageddon. I think he's talking about Apocalypse. I think he's talking about Apocalypse. What do you think? Have you made different experiences? I think the solution could be as easy as to play them to living room. Yeah. Well, I think he's talking about Apocalypse. He crossed the game. So I will talk about Apocalypse. If I'm making the wrong assumption, just let me know and I will cover in the next month. But I did not play the new Apocalypse games, right? But when you put so many miniatures on the table, and I agree with you, and you barely can move them because they are super packed, all the tactics depend. I don't think there is main of the tactics depend in the order and the target selection, right? There is not much space for room for movement, and everything is about target selection. That is a quite important tactic of Warhammer 40,000. Right, but when the table is too big for the gaming, there is not the space for the movement. You eliminate this from the equation, and then it's just in part is luck, but there is a lot of part of how you make your combos, how you position your how you have deployed is very important, and then all comes to target selection. Okay, in which order you start killing the enemy, and the one that is the most efficient doing that is the one that will end up winning. I will say for me Apocalypse game is just a game to put a lot of miniatures on the table and just see what happens. Right? It's very narrative. I think for me it's mainly narrative open play. Make no sense to make it competitive or think on any type of competitiveness on this type of games, and it's just a way to display huge armies on the board, on the table, and just play them. The problem of making huge tables is that you cannot reach the middle of the table, right? If you make super big tables, then you have difficulties to take the middle of the table. The other option is to play on the ground and people try to walk between the miniatures, but I wouldn't recommend because most likely someone will end up falling on top of one of these nice miniatures. So yeah, Apocalypse games, I think physically you have the problem that if you make a super big table, you cannot reach the middle of the table. Then you have to make a special table shapes like H shape, right? Or that where it represents that you are assaulting a big breach in the middle, or you have to make a U-shaped table, or a super long front, right? A lot of tables one next to each other, making a super long front representing the clash of two huge armies in the and in the middle. So yeah, I think it's tricky, and yeah, I understand your point. And to be fair, I have not played the new rules of the Apocalypse, but yeah, I will say that movement is not that important in these big games. It's more target selection, a little bit of luck on the dice, sorry, and how you position your units at the beginning in the way they synergize between them. They give boost to each other and so on. Contrast paint. You are one of the few persons on the internet webs that I have seen using contrast primer, Wraithbone and Glacier. Most of other it seems never use them, or at least never show it the usage in a video. Yet they all said there is almost no difference to regular primers in regards of how they interact with the contrast paints. What is your experience? Did you notice any differences? How the contrast paint work better with contrast primer, or is really the same as a normal primer? So just first of all, I'm mainly using Games Workshop primers or Games Workshop railcans to prime. Okay, in my experience, the contrast paints will work on top of any clear primer. Okay, if the primer is too dark, it will not work. If you use a gray and it's too dark, it will not work. Of course, on top of black will not work. I also tested on top of Genital Prime miniatures, and I'm not that happy how it works on Genital Priming, because these paints are very transparent. So when you are in the dark parts of the miniature, they have a hard time to cover, right? And it's not giving a very bright, so it will give a very mute colors. If you want to go for a dark looking miniature, you can do it. If you want bright colors, never use Genital Priming with contrast paints. For me, contrast paints, they work the best with clear primers, and can be the ones from Games Workshop, or can be any clear, any white or bone. Have to be, I will say, clear as the colors they recommend, or you can even use the white. Why I start using the Wraithbone and the Glacier is because they are smoother than the Codex White, right? Codex White is giving a little bit of rough surfaces sometimes, and this on the rail can, on the aerosol can, they give much smoother finishing. And this is why I switch to these two. Okay, and I like to combine them too, because depending, they really do a small difference. So depending where I want to go, I use one of the other. Okay, so this is why I like this and why I use these primers. But I'm pretty sure if you use one from, I never test it because I don't buy them, but if you use any from Vallejo Army Painting, will do the same work, right? There is not anything magic on that, because I really test the contrast paints on top of Zenital Prime miniatures and on top of white Codex. They work very well on white Codex, right? So, and I also did another experiment, and you will see this soon in my channel, but I use contrast prime on top of metal prime miniatures, okay, to make bronze. So you will see my video on how, this is the light here, it's really terrible, I don't see, but sorry for that, but you will see soon in the channel. I have used I'm also testing the contrast paint on top of metal. If you want to use contrast paint on top of metal, and I make a video how to make gold with contrast paint, right? You put a very clear silver, you use a snake bite leather, and you have a very nice gold in one go. Almost done. You almost don't have to do any additional thing. You will have a very nice gold there. If you want to use contrast paint on top of metal, you have to start from a very light metal. In that case, I think I make the same mistake. I used black and then I zenital prime with silver because I wanted to have pre-shading. Okay, the problem doing that is that in the dark areas the contrast paint don't have enough, they are not strong enough. Another thing, you will see as well, if you look the video how I paint unhealthy skin. I have not used this as the base color. I have used Celestra Gray as the base color or as the primer. So I put this and then on top I use the contrast paint. So I'm experimenting more and more with the contrast paints. They can work on top of different on top of the other different paints. Depending on the effect that you're looking at the end, you can use different bases. So you can make metals with the contrast paints, just making a base of metal before using a silver. I would recommend to use even I tried to use this, the aluminium from Vallejo, or you can use a very light silver like I think this is the Storm Horse silver, right? On top of that, the metallics, you can switch this metal to gold using a snakebite leather, or you can change it to copper using Gilliman flesh, right? And playing with this, you can have different, you can metallize these paints, right? So yeah, coming back, you can use it on top of any clear paint. On Zenital Prime, they are not the best to work with because they don't cover enough. And if you use other primers, be sure that the primer is light, right? Because especially if you want to use any of the light, any one of the light contrast paints. I also have the Apothecary White. I recommend to use the Apothecary White on top of white priming, or maximum, yeah, on top of this gray, the gray sear, right? Don't go darker because if not the result will not work. Okay, I hope this is clarifying. Maybe give you to make a video on tips and tricks on what I do with the contrast paint. For me, it's another tool, a very interesting one that is helping me to do new effects and new type of things. So I really like them. And then we go to the next one, Sisters of Battle. I want beautiful faces. All the sisters' artwork shows them with gorgeous faces, yet all the miniatures have malish, big boned, brutish faces. Don't get me wrong, the miniatures look great and will be fine on their own, since there is nothing wrong with women that don't look like Barbies. But almost all the official artwork makes their faces look hot and female, so the miniatures just don't fit to the fantasy that it inspires in my head. I realized that the old sisters miniatures had the same issue, so maybe for many of the veteran players this is not an issue at all, and they are just happy they will get some new models and update rules. But I'm not a veteran, I just know the sisters from the artwork, and there really is a big chasm between that and the miniatures for me. In regards to the faces, the rest looks totally, so I understand what you say. So, and then the question is, what do you think? Is that an issue for you, or you think they are totally fine as it is? Or would you maybe like them to do even, yeah. I see what you say. I think there is, in the sculpting, the faces looks too similar to each other. This is my main concern. When you look the old sisters, the faces were almost all the same, right? And I think it's difficult on 25mm to make very different faces. And I think in males they manage more to do different type of faces. On females, almost all the faces look the same. I think they want also to show that they are human, and they want to go away from very thin physiognomy to not do like elfish or elder, faces. Maybe this is one of the points why this more square bone face. To be fair, with the technology of today, I don't know why this is happening. I have not paid too much attention. I have here the last Sister of Battle. I think also depends how you paint them. Okay, but normally they have quite a strong face. For me, it's not an issue. When I try to make, if you try to make the face look, you can use the paint job to make the face look less square and most thin. There is some tips to make it look more feminine in a way. I think Games Workshop on the new Sisters of Battle, they try to avoid to be considered sexist, right? And they want to go for something much less feminine than it used to be in the past, making the armor more just prominent. I don't know. Even when I look at the Raging Heroes, I have it's tricky because I think a lot of this is on the paint job and how you paint them. For me, it's not an issue. I have a lot of Sisters of Battle from in the metal range, and yeah. The only thing for me, what is an issue, is that all the faces are almost the same, and all the Sisters of Battle are almost the same. I think, for example, if you look, the Space Marines happen a little bit, but if you look other races, there is more variation between faces and shapes. But more or less, all they are warriors, right? They are all fit, they are nice, and only we have fat people sometimes from time to time in the chaos if it's not girl. It's a difficult one. I think Games Workshop is adding more diversity as well. But in the past, all the Sisters of Battle were almost the same lady, right? Replicated in different poses. They all had more or less the same face, and they had the limitation they were made of metal, so they did not have the technology of today. I would like to wait and see really how they look like in the future with the plastic, but I think Games Workshop is not nailing the sculpt of the faces. I think they have more practice on the sculpting male faces, and they try to make this warrior look, and sometimes they don't look as nice and feminine as you might imagine. I think this can be, but for me it's not an issue. I think with the right paint job you can twist, or you can move how you want the face, if you want it more feminine or less feminine. I mean, you can play like placing a small reddish lips, for example. You can add a little bit of makeup on the eyes, you can try to make the cheeks thinner, adding some shading. So there is tricks and ways to paint, but this is quite a difficult one and needs a lot of practice. I understand also this problem. So, but yeah, answering for me is not an issue. I understand your point of view. I understand what is your what is the gap that you're talking about. But to be fair, until you told this to me, I was not aware of that. So I did not even pay too much attention to that. So I guess I was used to that maybe. So, and then I don't say what else to say about that. Sorry if I don't have more insights on this. So, and that's all the questions I have for this month. I hope you find this talk interesting. Please let me know what your opinion, and what is more important, leave questions for the next month. If these shows, these shows can only continue if you leave questions that I can answer in the next month. I really love all these questions. It made me think. It made me look back to things that I had not paid attention. For example, the first question about the star players, also the last question about the Sisters of Battle. It made me think if I have overlooked a little bit too much. The question on the Armageddon, I guess, was more on the Apocalypse. I hope I have answered this one. And yeah, and as usual, that's all for now. So I want to thank everybody that's watching this video, and yeah, see you again later. Bye.